meet him to tell me about Project Mingde, because he wanted to explain to me what it was. And I agreed to go and meet him, and one of the reasons I was interested is because I got this slide, and I knew something about it, but I wanted to learn a bit more about it. And then when I met with him, he was telling me about it, and I sort of casually said, well, I'd love to go there sometime. And then he said, well, actually, this was, I don't know when this was probably about June or July, something like that, of last year. He said, actually, in October, we've got the 10th anniversary. There's going to be a celebration. In fact, then in discussion with the faculty and with him, the timing of that celebration was arranged partly to suit me, because I was already going to be in China, because I was in Shanghai just before. So I managed to combine those two things into one trip. And Nicholas Young, I was very impressed by. I think he's a very inspiring man. I think he's, as you know, he lost his wife, and he and his wife were both dedicated to the project, and I sort of felt that he's partly still wanting to make sure he keeps involved as an honour to his late wife. You know, I think it's one of the ways in which he feels he's honouring her is by continuing to work on something that he knows she felt was a very worthwhile activity. So that's a very touching sort of human story as well. So there's the human aspects, there's the educational aspects, there's the tourism aspect. You know, how many more reasons do you want for it to be a good thing to do? There's lots and lots of them. I mean, one specific way in relation to Project Mingde, because it is the only experiential learning project of Hong Kong U that I have actually visited so far. So it was a first for me. So I'm a big believer in additional learning that's available, as you say, outside the classroom. I think a modern university education should include that for all students, and our ambition for Hong Kong U is for that to be part of all curricula, all undergraduate curricula, right across the whole university. At the moment it's not. And making that something that's known about Hong Kong U. So when someone's thinking about coming to Hong Kong U, one of the things they know is that a degree at Hong Kong U is likely to include an experiential learning project of some sort. But the principle should be that all students get experience outside Hong Kong. And a lot of that, I think, would be experiential learning. But to my mind, the benefits have been much more to me than they have actually been to the people that I'm working with, because I feel that experience taught me a great deal about myself, it taught me a great deal about the world, it taught me a lot to appreciate people worse off than myself. On Mingde, I found that, I mean, Samson knows this because we spent time together, but I mean, I found the whole experience really exciting, I got a sense of why people want to do it. And I think the reason was that, first, it's very well organised. Secondly, it's in a part of rural China that needs help, needs support, and needs people like Hong Kong U students to go and give their time and their expertise, and students and staff, to help them out, because their infrastructure is poor, and their economic power is poor. So it's a very good cause, but I would say that the biggest value actually is more to the students and staff than necessarily to the communities. Obviously the communities benefit as well, but our reason, as a university, our reason for doing it, you know, we can't rebuild the whole of China ourselves. You know, we can't do all the development work in China that needs doing. We can make contributions, but they're going to be small, always going to be small. But what we can do is we can have a learning approach that thinks that this is a very important part of the education that we provide. So, and Mingde, as I say, it's the only one I've visited. I thought it was great, and as an example of the kind of thing that we should be doing, I thought it was very powerful. PolyU have made a point of saying that they expect their students to undertake experiential learning, and I think that's where we're heading. I think we're thinking the same way. I think 6 hours is a start, but I actually like the idea of weeks or months of attachments. So that someone goes, let's say, 2 weeks to Guangxi, or 2 weeks to Germany or somewhere, so that it's a really meaningful part of the curriculum. We have the ambition that this is what we should do. We want these overseas attachments and mainland attachments to be substantial enough to be really meaningful experience. So not just 6 hours. I mean, 6 hours. I'm not denigrating 6 hours, but it's not very much in a 4-year degree. I think if we could have somebody go for 2 weeks to somewhere, they'd get very good experience, and it would add up to much more than 6 hours of experience. And then we could have, you've got something substantial enough to make it into a piece of written work, to report it, or to maybe even publish it. There are benefits for students of doing something a bit more substantial, because firstly you can put it on your CV and you can talk about it. You can maybe write a report on it and present it to other people. You can submit it for publication or get it published in a student publication of some sort. What I think I can do is I can provide strategic guidance that yes, I think this is a good thing for the university to do. I can encourage the staff members in your faculty that they're doing something that I see as very important for the university. And obviously, in Project Mingde, you have a mixture of retired staff or former staff, students and current staff. So it's all sorts of people that are involved, and I think that's my role, is very much supporting it, saying it's a good idea, talking about it. I mean, one of my when I give talks about Hong Kong U, which I often have to do, so I talk about it as an example of experiential learning and as an example of Hong Kong U's engagement with the mainland, both of which I strongly support. And so I think that's true of all levels of the university. So I think the university has a great opportunity to get into mainland China and get very good experiences for staff. So it's not just experiential learning, it's also research and teaching and industrial engagement, all sorts of other things. But we just have a great position in the world to do that. And I don't think that will last forever. I think China's developing so fast that there will come a time when there's no longer the need for this, what I described in the thing I've written in the newspaper today, is the universities as a bridgehead, so it's a way of, it's a place to start when you want to get into China. And this is the point I was saying about the heterogeneity of China. You can't say, oh, I've been to China and I've experienced this, and somebody else that's been to China will have exactly the same experience, because it depends very much where you go and what you do. And I experience all the things there are in China because it's just such a vast country and there's just so much to do. But the trip to Guangxi, I think, did teach me something about China, because it was an experience very different from anything else. As you know, it's a long winding road to get there. Different kind of scenery, different kind of weather, different kind of people. One of the things I enjoyed, and my wife came with me on that trip, and one of the things that we enjoyed most actually was visiting the village,
local village,
next to the school, where these people live in wooden houses, and we asked the mayor if it would be okay if we walked around the village, and he said yes, that'd be fine. He came with us, and that was nice. And I thought this was a big privilege, because a tourist area, this is a remote place which probably doesn't normally get to see many visitors, and so I thought that was an enormous honour. And I've had that kind of experience in Africa, but I've never had it really very much anywhere else in the world, because normally you go to a tourist place, and the last thing you do would be walk around a rural village. So again, it gave me really unique experience. And I'm very keen on interdisciplinarity, and it's true not just for experiential learning or service learning, but it's also true for teaching, it's true for research. Our core curriculum achieves some interdisciplinarity of teaching, and that's a big plus compared to the way it used to be. So you're all 4-year students now,
yes.
aren't you? Yeah. So So you've all had the advantage of this core curriculum year. Now it's in its early stages at the moment. It's a work in progress, and it may not be perfect, and gradually it will evolve. But the principle is that you get some education outside your own area. So that's one way of meeting students from different faculties. The other way is the other thing that I think the university can do, and I can do, is make it our ethos that we believe not to have big barriers between faculties. So we have a lot of interdisciplinary research projects going across involving 3 or 4 different faculties, and I'm very keen on those. And I'm thinking of using some of the research funding that's under my control to promote interdisciplinarity. So one thought is that I won't fund a project unless it involves 2 or 3 faculties, because sometimes you can engineer, to use your word, you can engineer behaviours, or you can encourage the behaviours you want to encourage with funding. That's sometimes quite an effective way of doing it. I mean, I don't think amalgamating faculties necessarily promotes interdisciplinarity. There's many other ways of doing it. So I think the experiential learning, service learning can be a start, but I'd like all Hong Kong U students to feel that they've met with and interacted with students doing something completely different from themselves. And again, I think that's a good part of the educational experience. So maybe next time I go to Mingde, it'll be to the new site. And I mean, as you can tell, I'm interested in the general principles of service learning, but because I've got a great deal of respect for Nicholas Young, and because I've already experienced Mingde for myself, it's always going to be slightly special, and it was the first, so it's always going to be slightly special to me. So your project has an advantage.